Center at 12 o'clock, okay?
Good morning, everybody. I'm now here at the Kennedy Space Center. This is the visitor complex, and we're heading towards the entrance right here with the rocket garden in the background. That's the Orion capsule, or rather a complete replica built for the Kennedy Space Center. Now if we take a stroll past the Orbit Cafe, which incidentally serves a really good lunch, you can just see something behind that we're heading to. And that's a full-scale replica of the external fuel tank, that's the one in orange, and the two white rocket boosters for the Atlantis Space Shuttle. Now this is pretty high. And in a moment we're going to look at the Atlantis shuttle itself. This is the Space Shuttle Atlantis.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
It's the actual orbiter that travelled into space. It's unbelievable just standing here. Look at the huge rocket boosters on the back here. The whole of this and the rockets we just saw outside the building are apparently collectively known as the shuttle, and this aircraft-shaped vehicle here is the orbiter. On the underside you can see thousands of tiles, all individual, and each one has to be checked meticulously well before takeoff, well before takeoff. They're all extremely lightweight, which is important, as well as heat resistant. Now it's showing it obviously with its doors open, and it can contain things like the Hubble Space Telescope right here. Actually, it's a replica. Just in case you were wondering what NASA stands for, it actually stands for National Aeronautics Space Administrations. And the Kennedy Space Center that we're in at the moment, visitor complex, is only a small part of Cape Canaveral, which is, as well as the space projects and everything else, it's also well known for its wildlife conservation. That includes the protection of alligators, American bald eagle, osprey, wild boar, bobcat, and lots more. This will be just one of the many engines from the space shuttle you see here. Look at all those pipes.
All that stuff, once it's all mixed together, then comes into the main combustion chamber, which is right through that hole. And those are called injectors. There's 640 of those little tubes.
Here we can see a large-scale model of the Atlantis Space Shuttle, complete with the rocket booster and solid fuel tank in its takeoff position. Now, in 1969, a guy threw this particular model towards his engineer team, and that became a template for the very first space shuttle. So in order here, all 6 shuttles, starting with the Enterprise back in 1977, then Columbia in 1981, Challenger in 1983, Discovery in 1984, and the Atlantis, which is right here, and that was 1985, and then the Endeavour for 1992. Here's an actual astronaut carrier that took them right up to the launch pad. And I'll take another look at the Atlantis before we continue on. I do like the rocket garden, and there's a story behind every single one of these rockets. That rocket laying on its side, that's the Saturn 1, and that's really big. But we'll be seeing a much larger Saturn rocket a little later on the tour. That'll be the Saturn 5, and that was the one that was part of the moon missions. Now this here is the Vehicle Assembly Building. It's also known as the VAB or VAB. They abbreviate everything here. Like for instance, the vehicle that I'm travelling on right now is also known as a BUS. Now you see the stars and stripes on the side? Well, apparently you can drive a bus right up one of those stripes and it'll fit snugly in it. That's how big it is. It doesn't look it from here, but it really is. That's a crawler, which travels extremely slow. And they have to because they'll sit under one of these platforms. And that will hold a complete shuttle. Then it lifts the whole thing that will then travel at a speed of just 1 mile per hour and 2 miles if it's unloaded. Now this building is huge. It might not look it, but it is. Has the tallest doors in the world, so I'm to understand. It can hold the whole of the Pentagon inside, or it can hold the entire capacity of the Empire State Building 3.5 times over, believe it or not. This is also where they constructed the Saturn V rockets, then went on with the building, the piecing together of the actual space shuttles. There's one of the launch pad areas.
Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It is one of those rare moments when history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
This is launch control. T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
Here we are at Mission Control Room for Apollo 8, right here where it actually happened.
We have firing command. Firing command is in. We are now on the automatic sequence. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the switch list aboard the spacecraft. 20 seconds on our steps. We are still in roll at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3.
This is the largest rocket here, the Saturn V, and it's huge. I thought the rocket booster's engine on the Atlantis were big, but this is so much bigger. All the work that goes into just a single engine alone, it's unbelievable, isn't it? It really is. It's split into sections, or rather it just simply has the pieces that join the different parts together removed so we can see what's behind. All this is the first stage and largest part of the rocket. Then it's on to the second stage rocket. In takeoff, all this will be completely covered, and then all the parts will fall away as and when the time it comes to do so. And then right at the top end, this looks like a single engine booster rocket. Further up, hidden from view, would be the lunar lander in front of the fuel tank. It's all hidden out of view. And in front of that is the service module. And the little one right at the end will be the command module, which is pretty tiny and it has to be able to hold 3 astronauts. They spend, well, I would imagine most of their time in there anyway. It's really incredible walking right underneath, being able to see all the sections in so much detail. That's the top of the fuel tank in the second stage rocket. And the intricacy of the single engine from the third stage rocket is out of this world, and it literally has been out of this world. Still underneath the second stage fuel tank, revealing an even bigger fuel tank. This is just a second stage rocket, which is smaller than the first one, but still big enough. They built a large-scale model of the Saturn rocket here with all the adjoining rings holding the whole thing together and how it would have looked, except it would be vertical instead of horizontal as it is here. This is the transparent side of the rocket, which shows you how all the sections interlink, as well as an idea of what's inside. So you've got the engines and the boosters at the end here. This section contains the fuel. Then when that part's finished, it would go through the first separation, leaving section 2 to continue firing up. And then the third rocket would also fire up after that one's done its bits. and after another separation. We can also see the space where they put the lunar lander right there. And then of course the command module right at the top here, which is also the one that will eventually travel all the way back to the Earth with a splashdown and all the parachutes. I always remember seeing the famous shots of the rocket at liftoff and the cameras at close range showing the USA in red on the sides, which we can see right here. Hanging from the ceiling are all the Apollo mission badges. Now I do have a collection of these which can be sewn onto jackets or coats right from Apollo 1 and then jump into Apollo 7, 8, and this is Apollo 9 right here. Just behind is Apollo 10. And right behind that one is Apollo 11, which shows the Eagle has landed. And that's the one that made the first moon landing. I think this is the original lunar module right here, and the one at the top of the rocket has been added at a later date. Right next to it is a moon buggy, and here's another. It's not actually a vehicle that has been sent to the moon because they're always left there. It's just one that's been built to stay on Earth, possibly built from spare bits and pieces that were left over from the others. There is a lot built into it, and it's all very lightweight too. Includes satellite, transmitter, camera. Now here's the Apollo 14 capsule. This one's called the Kitty Hawk. This has actually travelled into space carrying astronauts. There's not a lot of room in this, and I can tell you, no good if you suffer from claustrophobia. It's apparently travelled more than 500,000 miles on its mission before eventually being parachuted back to Earth. You can see all the scorch marks where it's re-entered back into our atmosphere. Now this is Alan Shepard's spacesuit, the one he wore on Apollo 14 mission, and we've just been looking at the capsule he sat in during the flight. Now you might be wondering why Snoopy is here. Well, that's because he was the nickname for the Apollo 10 lunar module, which the whole thing was a dress rehearsal for Apollo 11. And the Apollo 10, it circled the moon and flew well under 10 miles within the moon's surface. So here's Snoopy standing here, all proud as a mascot. Here's another command module. Scaled model of a rocket with all its boosters. The Boeing Starliner module. first Dragon for International Space Station. Take a peep inside the Starliner. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seats. Doesn't look too comfortable to me.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
A short time later, history is made again.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
For one incredible moment, we are one people with one history, watching our destiny unfold.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It was a moment shared by an entire world.
Dear men of the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, became indeed for all mankind.
With these first steps, mankind stood on the highest ground, and we saw our planet as our home port in the endless ocean of space.
Morning, let's host the dolphin. After you get your pictures or your selfies, so we start the 15-minute tour right here. Now, man, you back up with your dolphin.
Well, there we go. I hope you enjoyed our tour around just a little part of the Space Centre. Don't forget to subscribe and please do check out my channel for similar uploads. This is Geoff Dean here, and I'll see you all again very soon on YouTube.